This is my final video on this 3.6 liter Pentastar project. This is an engine that we are reassembling to go into a family minivan down in Florida. It's a family, the Tosi family. They've been going through a lot of things. Their van blew up. They didn't need to go through that. So Rain Man Ray, one of my good buddies, has offered to put the engine in their van free of charge. And I had an engine here that needed a little work. And now we are finishing the reassembly of that. Last video we put freshly machined heads. We put all new valve train in it. We got the heads and camshafts mounted. In this video, we're going to put all the chains on it. We're going to reseal the whole thing and get shipped off to Ray so he can get it in their van. Now, yes, I have realized it probably would have been cheaper and easier to buy a used engine or buy a vehicle to get the engine from and ship it down there. But that doesn't guarantee that it's got all the latest and greatest parts, which is why I decided to put this engine together the way that I have. It has the updated valve train, the latest revision on the rockers, and now we're going to put in this oil pump solenoid. This is the fix for that. We're basically doing everything there is to do to this to make this as reliable as possible. And I know I get a lot of comments about the oil filter housing in the valley. I'm not going to replace that. There's nothing wrong. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to replace that. I am not kidding about that. Ray is going to put that in. I'm leaving some stuff for him. So yeah. It's going to get replaced. The first thing we're going to do is turn this engine over so we can remove this upper oil pan so that we can get this oil pump chain off. This is going to be fine. I'm used to my powered, well, crank engine stand. Are you leaking anything? Nope. I think we're good. Let's get this upper oil pan unbolted. Didn't think blue was going to get any work in this one, but here we are. And now I can go run this through the washer, but it is pretty clean as it is. Now I'm pretty sure I got to remove the oil pump and take this chain off to get this out, but we're going to try to not do that. I don't know how much luck we're going to have with that. I can't see how this is going to fit through that, but we're going to try it anyway. You might have to give that a little tap. And then there's a little clip right there. All right, so we're loose. I don't know if we can get the connectors out. That would have been super cool if they had made it to where you could do that. I know you guys are yelling at me, just take it off. I'm really stubborn if you haven't already gathered. Hey, it's not going to work. Who knew? You guys did. Let's get the oil pump unbolted. There we go. There's the old, and here is the new. Okay. We'll put the clip in. And this one will sit right here. This is like a wire retaining clip. Go to your home. This is kind of difficult here. Okay. There we go. Now let's see if we can't get this oil pump lined back up. Sure can. Now for those that are wondering, the flanges on here are machined, much like the flange at the bottom of the block here. So there's no gasket, there's no material. It's just metal on metal. It's not often that's a good thing. Let's get those a little tighter. Now we just got to put this through the hole, get some oil on that old O-ring. I mean, it's a new O-ring. And we're back together. Let's torque that oil pump down. Now it's time to torque these bolts to 106 inch-pounds. Now we're going to rotate this over so I can start putting chains on it. And here's what's going on. We're reusing the timing chain because I can still see the colored links, and these don't really have chain problems, but I did get new tensioners, some rails, ready to go back together. Well, I've got the camshafts lined up, holes pointed up, timing tool inserted, dashes lined up on that bank. Let's go to the other bank. Arrows pointed at each other, holes facing up, come down to the crankshaft, dimple on the crankshaft in line with the mating surface of the main cap and the block. So this engine's at top dead center and it is in time. Now it's time to drape the chain in place, line up our colored links with our timing marks. Need to move that cam just a hair. There we go. And before we go to slide this chain over all this and get this in place, we need to put this rail in place. Let's go get that out of the package. Now I can roll this in. And now we got to get the other rail in. Let's get that. Okay, this is a little bit of work here. I've decided to do this the other way. There's a couple different ways you can do this. So we're going to pull the phaser off. We're going to get the chain and the rails in place, and then we'll reinstall this. That's the plan. Okay, that's out. Don't forget to get the bolts in here. Let's torque these to spec while we're here. 106 inch-pounds. Yeah, there we are. Still lined up here. Yep. While we're here, we're just going to get this kind of started. Kind of go back in with this, just to keep things from going sideways. Now let's see if we can get this in here. Let's find the timing mark. All right, and then we can just turn this. There's an alignment pin. I might have to move the cam a little bit. There we are. We're going to go get this few threads in, check our timing marks, make sure we're happy. Well, it was a little bit of a struggle, my first time, but I got the lines marked up. No, marks lined up. That's what I meant to say. Everything's in time. That rail is torqued to spec, and the timing mark, little arrow there, is pointed to the colored link. So now it's time to add the tensioner, and we can start on the opposing bank. And tensioner's going in. Let's get those run in and then torque to spec. Now it's time to lay the right bank chain in place. And make sure we line it up with the timing mark on the idler. Let's get this lined up here. I think it's right like that. Let's verify that. Yep. All right, now we can fit the rails in. right. And now the last rail here. Torque those down.
Now transfer.
Now we'll torque the idler. All right, let's recap this. Timing marks. Come down here. Arrow, it's really hard to see on the idler. Colored link. Crankshaft's lined up. We can go over here to the colored link on the idler for the right bank. And then coming up here, we are in time. Well, I screwed up. I thought I was recording when I pulled the pins and turned this thing over, but I wasn't, and I'm sorry. So I pulled the pins. Everything looks to be all right. We're all in time. Now it's time to put the timing cover on it. And I spent a little time on the timing cover, replaced the crankshaft seal, cleaned it pretty well, replaced all of these seals on the back. We got all the bolts in the respective hole, but I need to install, look at this, a brand new water pump. I know. There's the old one. There's the new one. So we're going to put the new one on the timing cover, and I also have a new water outlet for that, an upgraded one, and we'll be going back together with this. Now it's time to install some parts on the timing cover. We're going to start with this Dorman updated water outlet or crossover. Some of these just go through the cover, and some of these thread in. So the ones that thread in, we will be tightening to 106 inch-pounds. Let's make sure our seal's not coming out of there. This isn't really going in all as straight as I'd like. Okay, water outlet is in. I did lose one bolt. I need to go get one off of one of my various engines here, or it could be on the table here. I'll look, but I'll come up with that bolt. But now I've got the water pump. Here's the water pump gasket. Looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4 threaded ones. All right. I think that's all of the threaded ones. Yes, it is. These big holes are the motor mount bracket right there, and those will be installed once we get the cover on, because I need to torque these to spec once the entire cover's on, because those go through the cover and tighten to the heads or block. Now it's time to apply the sealant. So we have specific places we need to do this. I'm looking at the diagram here. And for those that are wondering, this is the Mopar sealant. Note to self, manual caulking guns, not the best. Be careful not to disturb any of sealant or any of that. And I don't have any bolts. That would be a problem, wouldn't it? All right, now we can just start feeding it bolts. Now it's time to torque these all to spec. I think we're going to start right here. I know some of these I've already done. Okay, all of those are tight. Now I need to start installing some more parts. And the Ugga Duggas. Now the next thing I need to do is not install the upper oil pan or the valve covers. I could do that, but what I need to do is replace this rear main seal plate. And obviously the engine stand doesn't really work so well. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the engine up off the stand, pull the stand head off, we'll replace that, put it all back together so I can rotate it. I think by doing it this way, I ensure the best seal of the upper pan because there's gaps here and back here that need RTV, and that way it's not like it's dried here and not here and dried here. I think doing it all at one time makes the most sense, and then everything's aligned right. That's safe-ish. I used one oddball bolt. What is wrong with me? Yeah, that's perfectly fine. It's gonna be super easy to get this back together, I'm sure. All right, let's get this out of the way for the moment. So I wouldn't normally recommend working on an engine hanging off a chain on a forklift, but when you do, just make sure you're real safe about it. I don't know how to make it safe. There's the old one. So we're going to put a little dab of sealant here and here and install the new one. You know what? We need a little bit of oil on the seal before we do that. Put a little bit of oil on it. Makes it fit all nice. Like a glove. Now we're going to flip this thing over so we can put the upper and lower oil pans on. And we have some block prepping to do as well. Now I've got everything prepped, so it's time to lay a bead of sealant on the oil pan. Now we will place this carefully. We are in place. I'm going to get the two little guys threaded in first. Now I have to feed it 1,000 bolts. Okay, now I have to torque these down. Okay, all of those bolts are tight. I just have these two Okay, upper pan is on, time for the lower pan. Well, I've got my sealant laid on the upper pan, or lower pan rather. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Now I gotta carefully just set this thing down. There are studs to line her up. Just like so. Much like the other pan, it's time to feed it some bolts. All right, now I'm just going to run them down lightly so I can torque them down. All right, now the torque spec for these, 97 inch-pounds. Okay, bottom of the engine is done. Let's go look at the top. Next we have some valve cover prep. You need to put some new seals in here. This one needs to come out. It does come out, right? How does it come out? Oh, I think I just need to tap it out. Give it a little tap. It's just in plastic, so how bad could this be? Don't answer that. And it's out. The new one. Just gonna put a socket in here and kind of tap it in lightly. It should be okay. There. Just took a little convincing. There's a little lip inside of here. Just want to make sure we got the seals seated. Okay. Now we have the tube, spark plug tube seals. You know what? I feel like maybe we should install these on the cylinder head. And we'll put them on the valve cover. We might regret that decision. Now we can tear off the old valve cover gasket. It's nice to give you a place to pull on. It's really, a lot of manufacturers don't do that. Now we can set the new gasket in place. Actually, let's clean up the remaining bit of sealant there. Now we can install the gasket. It would help if I installed the gasket in the right spot. Or just, that might be the wrong side. You don't always have to get them on the right side, it helps tremendously. Yeah, this is the correct gasket. I had a 50-50 shot, and I failed. Oh, would you look at that. We're ready to install a valve cover. And the tube seals are fighting me. We got it. We're just gonna loosely get these tight. That made no sense. And these are torqued to 106 inch-pounds. And now the cram sensor. Well, I've got this valve cover stripped already. I think I'm going to continue with doing things the wrong way and put the tube seals in the valve cover first. I still think that's the right way. So I could be wrong. I don't know. I've been wrong before, but I'm confident that once the valve cover is seated, it will not leak. Confident. Okay, now we can get the new seal for the cam sensor. This was a little fun going in. That did not go the way I intended. Still almost there. Okay, that is in place, and now we can put the actual valve cover gasket in place. I've already cleaned all of the old sealant. It fits much better the right way. Much better. Okay, we are ready to install a valve cover. In the past videos, some of you were keen enough to notice that one of these tubes was bent. Straightened it with a beveled socket. Super easy to do. Didn't feel like I needed to include that in the video. Now we're ready to install valve cover. Like a glove. Now, the number one comment I've seen is that I should replace this. Well, I'm not doing that. I'm just not going to do that. There's no reason to do that because Ray's going to do that. I'm not going to do something that Ray's already going to do. So I'm just going to kind of set this on there just so that he gets a more complete engine. He'll have to peel this back off because he's going to replace this anyway. And it's easier for me to tape this up and keep this covered for shipping than the bare heads. Bare heads? I'm not talking about bare heads. You know what? That is good enough. That is not going anywhere. It might go somewhere. Well, at this point, I feel pretty confident in this engine. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more assembly on Ray's part. He's going to put new plugs in it. He's going to do the oil filter housing, all of that stuff. Fresh fluids, the upper intake manifold, the exhaust manifolds, probably some brackets that weren't on this engine when I got it. I just wanted to get the core engine ready to go, and I feel like we did a good job of that. Well, it's all done, sealed up, getting ready to get wrapped and strapped on the skid. This thing is leaving very soon. All right, wave, Brady. All right, wave. Hey. Say bye. Bye. It's done, and it's on its way down to Florida so Ray can get it installed, and the Tosi family can finally have their family van back on the road. Feels great to be done with a project like this on my end, but it feels even better to be a part of something that really helps someone out in a time of need. I feel very fortunate that I'm in a position where I can do this for somebody. Not everyone is, and I appreciate all the donations that have come my way, but they're really misdirected. You should donate to the Tosi family if you feel the need to donate at all. I'm not trying to compel you to do that, but I don't need anything for this. I went into this project knowing that it was strictly a cost thing, and I assumed that cost because I wanted to do something nice for someone, and I feel like we got the job done, but I still feel a tremendous amount of guilt for the amount of time that this project has taken. I wanted to get this done a lot sooner, and I could have probably bought a van at the auction that ran and drove with the miles. I could have tested it. I could have pulled the engine out and sent it down to Florida, and they would have had it back on the road already. But when you buy something like that, you still don't know what the condition of all of the parts are. Yes, everything I sell comes with a warranty, but that doesn't mean that there's something we didn't see or that something won't come apart in 6, 8 months, 2 years. Which is why I wanted to go through this engine. I wanted to replace all of the common failure points that I could, all the latest and greatest of parts, the rockers, the oil pump solenoid, the aluminum crossover, as many parts as would keep this van off the side of the road or out of the garage and working for the Tosi family. That was my goal. It wasn't necessarily speed, it was reliability. I want this van to serve them well for years to come. So now that it's done, I have no idea what I'm going to spend my extra time on. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. But I really hope you enjoyed this assembly video. I take things apart for a living, so it feels really good to keep one out of the scrapyard, put back on the road. I feel like I make messes everywhere, and this is the one time I get to clean it up. That's just how my brain internalizes it. So I hope you enjoyed this series of videos on my end, and now you can look forward to Ray's videos. I don't know if there's going to be 1 or 2 or what that'll look like, but as always, I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all, and I'll catch you on the next one.